Welcome to Unit 3. This week, the objectives are to understand the complexity of elements that define the school social worker's role, recognize formal and informal structures with schools and how they contribute to the overall organizational structure of the school, and understand how ecological perspectives influence the school environment and the role of the school social workers. So first of all, let's talk about role development. Developing the role of the school social worker is the result of interactions between what the school social worker brings to the position, because there's always different elements that we prefer over others, and the perceptions of others within the school, the needs of the school and community, and the funding stream. Therefore, school social workers working in two different schools may fulfill very different roles, and you're going to hear me say that again and again over this semester. The NAS standards for school social work are standards that outline the profession's view of the school social worker and the standards of school social work practice. I had you look at those last week, and I'll ask you to look at those again this week. The question comes down to, who does the school social worker serve? When developing the potential roles of the school social worker, it is important to consider that the school social worker may serve a variety of client groups, including children, teachers, families, school administrators, the school itself, and the community. Although there are a wide array of different roles a school social worker may fill, Constable and colleagues, don't ask me to say that other name, came up with 4 basic tasks that all school social workers fulfill. The first one is consultation. This is with others in the school system as a member of a team. They all engage in assessment, and this is applied to a variety of different roles, including direct service, consultation, and program development. And then they all engage in direct intervention with children and parents in individual, group, and family modalities, and they all assist with program development. Now, this week in the reflective discussion, I'm going to ask you to explore the many roles of school social workers. The organization, of course, influences what the school social worker will be doing. Understanding the organizational structure of schools is essential for school social worker because the organization of the school shapes the roles, the functions, actions, and interactions of the school social worker within the setting. Schools have both formal and informal organizational structures. Let's talk about formal structures first. This refers to the official established patterns in an organization, the rules, policies, and procedures that govern behavior in the organization and are officially established in writing. As you think about the formal structures of a school, consider how this formalization and standardization may be both useful as well as harmful. Informal structures. Schools have informal structures in addition to the formal structures. Informal structures are social relationships that develop within a school that are not prescribed, mandated, or planned. Within schools, informal structures may include staff, teachers, administrators, students, parents, or community members. And basically there are 4 different types of informal structures. The first one is affectional, which are based on friendships or similar interests. Then we have communication structures, which are developed based on getting or sharing information, opinions, or feelings. The third is decision-making structures. These are the patterns of social interactions that occur prior to decision-making. And then the fourth one is power structures, and these are based on the individual's ability to influence. Both the formal and informal structure of the school contribute to the overall organizational structure of the school. When considering the organizational structure of the school, it is important to consider the cultural norms and values reflected in the organizational structure of that particular school. I went over this slide last week, but I wanted to go over it again because I'm going to ask you to think in depth about the ecological perspective. So the ecological perspective is an approach to school social work practice that encourages the school social worker to examine the complex interaction between the individual and the environment and how those two influence one another. There are 4 systems proposed in the ecological perspective. We have the microsystem, which includes those settings that an individual experiences on a regular basis, such as the family, the workplace, or the classroom. It can also be thought of as the child's immediate environment. Then we have the mesosystem. This refers to the linkages that exist between the microsystems. For example, the relationship between parents and teachers represents a mesosystem for a child. Strong and complementary mesosystems are thought to enhance development. The next is the exosystem. These settings are those that affect an individual, but in which he or she has no direct experience. They are environments that are external to the developing person. And then the last one is macrosystems. This refers to the broad ideological and institutional pattern of a particular culture or subculture. So, I'm going to leave you with something to think about. How do you think that you could, as a school social worker, influence the organizational structure of a school?